Hey everyone, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going over the Boomkin again in the alpha. I have an original video, I'll put the link down in the description, but what this is about is the recent change in the alpha because of kind of the outrage about the Eclipse system. Now just to give you a quick recap, again we're at level 51, remember 50 is the same as 120 in BFA, and we're going to go through quickly the change, the way Eclipses used to be, the way they are now, and what it looks like in the game. So let's just jump right into it by explaining what happened. Basically, in the beginning of the alpha for Shadowlands, Eclipses was an RNG-based system. Boomkins still have astral power, but now they're based on Eclipses. So what it was that you had a 25% chance when casting Wrath or when casting Starfire to proc an empowerment. The Eclipses being when you were casting Starfire, you would be able to proc an Eclipse for Solar. Wrath cast time reduced by 20% and damage increased by 20%. When you were casting Wrath, you would proc a Solar Eclipse. Starfire cast time reduced 20% and the area of effect damage increased by 100%. So that 25% chance to give him these buffs, it was immediately criticized by a lot of different people, and honestly, it did feel a little strange. Think about it. If you're in a raid, DPSing a boss, and all of a sudden you get a proc, and it is at the worst time. Think of that. That's the only window of opportunity that you're going to get that 20% increased damage. You're going to feel like, oh, I want to use it, but you're just not able to get it off. So, or in a PvP situation, you get that proc, and it's not really a good time. Or, you know, having basically no control over those procs is pretty lame, and it doesn't really let you set up for damage or be really flexible. Having random proc damage, you know, Elemental Shaman, it works out. Enhanced Shaman, it's okay. But in terms of a Boomkin, you know, there's just a lot of outrage that, hey, this isn't, you know, really that good of an idea. So what they've changed to is they've changed to this. Casting 3 Starfalls empowers Wrath for 13 seconds. Casting 3 Wraths empowers Starfall for 13 seconds. These eclipses occur in alteration. So what that means, and you can see they've even updated the user interface, is that Wrath and Starfire now have these 3s next to them, which is pretty cool. That means, like, let's say, for example, you're on a trash pack right before the boss. Maybe you can spend 2 out of the 3 Starfires on some mobs that are just taking a little bit, you know, to kill, and then that means you only have 1 more Starfire before you get some beefy Wraths to pump out against them. So having a little bit more control will allow you to kind of set things up in that way. And the same thing for PvP. Let's say you're in CC and you don't have your randomly proc empowered Wrath, assuming that that's going to be the one that does more damage, or out of line of sight, or you're running away from cooldowns from the enemy and you're just kind of like trying to do passive damage, right? You don't have control over those random procs, but now you do. And the other thing about it, and what I want to show you, is how this kind of works, and I'll show you that in a second. The other thing I just want to touch on is if you're not familiar with Boomkin, again, I'll put the other video down below. With this change in mind, you should just definitely remember this is happening. The other big thing is Star Surge. Star Surge has changed. This is now, again, using Astral Power, which is still very much in the game. Launches a surge of stellar energies at the target, dealing 1.1k astral damage, and extending, and this is the key, extending any active eclipse by 3 seconds. Meaning, if I were to control my eclipses, and I you know, maybe I use 2 out of the 3 Starfires, and then I use the 3rd one, I want to make sure I have a lot of astral power so that I can extend that duration with Star Surge. So maybe I can pump even more Wrath. So you'll see what that looks like here in a second. But that's just key, because this use of Star Surge in Shadowlands is going to be a little bit different than BFA. BFA, this is your dump of astral power and just overall damage. You know, you're using this as, you know, your main big burst damage. And in Shadowlands, what we hope, at least from my perspective and the people that I've talked to, like Bill, for example, we hope that the casted abilities are going to start weighing in and start doing some damage. When your casted abilities start feeling good, then a class usually starts feeling good without the builder spender mentality. The only caster that's really, I'm trying to think of builder spenders, because Ellie Shaman was changed away from a builder spender. It was very much like Boomkin in BFA in terms of building up your damage. Your builders don't do that much damage, and then spenders like the Star Surge would be your only damage. It looks like Blizzard's going away from that, and that's a different topic for a different day. But let's go ahead and show you what this looks like and see how it feels versus the RNG. You know, so okay, so let's go over here. We'll do one test first before I even get into the procs. One thing to note that I observed is that if I do this, like Starfire, I do 2 Starfires. right? And you can see the number's gone down to 1. And let's say I even, okay, let's do 2 Wraths. I'm just going to sit here. I can sit here with 1s on each of those casts, which means, and I'll just, I'm going to use other abilities. I can sit here with 1s. No big deal. I'm not going to even use anything that will proc either one of these, right? But it's kind of cool. I can sit here with 1s there. So depending on maybe the situation, I can set up my opener really strong. But that's definitely something different. This is a different way to manage your cooldowns, and it's actually, I appreciate it. Much more than RNG. RNG, I could have just kept casting and casting and casting. And when stuff is RNG and you're kind of fishing for those procs, it does feel like I'm just spamming. Like, give me that proc, give me that proc. You're chasing the procs, and chasing the procs is not necessarily, in my opinion, a good way to play. You can, the procs themselves should be, and again, different topic, but I think when you're a proc-based class, those procs should be flavorful. They should add value, add excitement to the rotation. It shouldn't be fishing for those, like Enhance in BFA. So again, we got 1 and 1. So let's go ahead and use one. Let's go ahead and get those procs going. We're going to then spend some Astral Power to extend it. Okay, here we go. This is Starfire. Okay, so there's this. There's Solar Eclipse. Now we can start dumping these Wraths, and now I'm excited. I got this buff up there, right? I have full Astral Power. We're going to dump some Astral Power. We'll get another Wrath. We'll keep buffing that. Again, oh, I got to keep going. The buffed, buffing Eclipse using my Star Surges, getting that duration long time. This has actually lasted quite a while, and you can actually see I'm doing some pretty good damage with it. So that's pretty much how the system works. Now, again, once that proc is over, now I only have, I had 3 next to the Wrath, meaning I have 3 Wraths before I could trigger a Lunar Eclipse. Now, don't see any numbers next to Starfire because, like the tooltip said, the eclipses have to alternate. So definitely something to keep in mind. So, okay, I'm going to use my next Wrath, and then I'm going to use, Starfires. The other thing to note is when you get into Lunar Eclipse, this actually affects Full Moon as well. So it is actually a good thing to use. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. We're going to use Starfire to extend the duration. We need to start using, Star Surge. Starfire. The other thing, Full Moon also gives you a lot of Astral Power. So getting that, continuing the rotation is pretty easy when you can get all those powers going. All right, and then extended. So again, now you can see the 3 next to Starfire. So it is kind of a good rocking back and forth, I shouldn't say motion, but it's a good rocking back and forth, thing to as part of the rotation, kind of like what people have been talking about for a while, which is the balance bar between lunar and solar, right? That Boomkins used to have. That people were saying, oh, we still have Astral Power. I was hoping we were going to get that meter, which showed the sun and the moon on either side, and you would have it progress either way. And if you guys haven't seen that, maybe I can pull up a screenshot here, but that's not going to be the system that's going to exist. What will seem to exist at this point is Wrath and Starfire having those numbers here. A few things I'll say about this, and if you have any questions, put it down in the comments. We'll go over this on stream very soon as well, because it is definitely an interesting change, and they do seem to be paying attention to the feedback that people are giving. So definitely, I'll give my feedback as well, even though I'm not a Boomkin main. I played Boomkin a ton in Legion. Definitely a very fun class, and reminds me a lot of Ellie Shaman. But in general, my thoughts on this are the following. Really, the RNG method was not gonna really work. If that were to go forward, that would have been upsetting to everybody. I think having the control over when you're going to get either one is good as an opener to when you open on the boss. Like, you're going to be able to control that from there. But the one thing I'll say is the alternating, after you do a lunar eclipse, you get you have to go for the solar eclipse, and back and forth is a little controlling to me. And I mean, of course, it's part of the rotation, but let's say, for example, I'm, in PvP, and let's say Star Surge, I don't want to have to use Star Surge. In this current setup, I have to use Star Surge 3 times to be able to get a lunar procs, and then I have to use Wrath 3 times to get Lunar Eclipse. So I have to rock back and forth, and the forced rock back and forth, maybe in PvP I wouldn't want to do that. In PvE, like, it's probably going to be okay, but even in PvE, like, if I start with 3 Starfires, right, I have to, okay, we'll do that. And then let's go ahead and use the Wraths. I'm going to spam Wraths. I'm not going to extend the duration because I actually want the Eclipse to fall off, so I'll be, keeping my dots up but spamming Wrath, for example. maybe even, you know, my moons. So Eclipse goes down. Eclipse is down. I cannot get another solar eclipse before my lunar eclipse. So let's go ahead. I mean, if I go out of combat long enough, it'll come back. I think it's like on a 30-second cooldown. But let's say I'm spamming, you know, I'm spamming Starfalls. It doesn't give me the solar eclipse. So what I have to do now is I have to use Wrath 3 times, which is okay. It's better than RNG. Okay, look, up there's the lunar eclipse. It's okay, but it's actually forcing me into a gameplay. It's forcing me into a way to do my rotation. And the only thing I'll say about that is that in PvP is going to be a bigger deal probably than PvE. Mainly because if you have to rock back and forth, like let's say Wrath, when that's buffed up, it's doing some serious damage. Let's even say when Star Surge is being buffed up, it does like decent damage. You know, I would need to use Starfires to get buffed Wraths, use those huge Wraths, and then I would be over. I would have to go to Wrath. I would have to get through casting 3 Wraths. I'd have to get through casting 3 Wraths, and then using the entire Eclipse, and not even probably extending it, potentially, if I want to get back to Wrath, you know, the Eclipse to Wrath as fast as I can. I would probably, okay, I'm using it. But maybe you wouldn't even, you know, use the lunar. Maybe you're going to use that for full moons. Who knows? And then once that's done, you have to use 3 Starfires to get back to Empowered Wraths. I know I keep saying these things back and forth, but the point being, if you're controlled in that manner, and one side or the other is more powerful, then it's going to be a slippery slope. And I'm a little worried about that. So that's my feedback on this. Now, the other thing in PvP is that Starfire is an AoE ability, calls down burst of energy, causing 375 arcane damage to the target, and 125 arcane target to all enemies nearby. This is actually potentially a rough situation if you were playing with, for example, a rogue. Rogue does things like sap or blinding the target. If you're trying to kill someone and your burst is in the rotation here, the balance beam of having to use Starfires, then you're going to be in a pickle. You're going to break those CC, or you're playing with a mage. You're going to break that CC. And of course, you know, some of these comps, you know, maybe they're not the best for Boomkin or what have you, but it's just an example of forcing them to follow a very strict rotation and not having any leniency there, I think is a negative thing. Now, what's the solution? Honestly, I think that the solution may be allowing or having an internal cooldown while you're in combat to allow for Starfire 3 times I get a solar empowerment or solar eclipse. 30 seconds later, I could get another solar eclipse without going through a lunar eclipse. I know I'm saying those words back and forth, but you probably are following what I'm saying. So that would allow me to kind of focus on just those one eclipse. So that's one solution to the problem that I see. The other is Blizzard could just balance these very tightly. So maybe Wrath is doing more single target damage, but Starfire, which is a bit longer of a cast, is going to be doing that much more significant single target, which you see it's like 100 more damage here, but that even that much more significant damage. So that maybe AoE is not going to be the biggest issue here with using the Starfires, or potentially adjusting eclipses. I'm not saying they need a buff right now. I'm just saying that's one of their tuning mechanisms. Either the eclipse damage or cast time percentages here, or the mastery percentages. Tweaking those may kind of make it okay, but I think it's very important that Wrath and Starfire either are very close in damage, or you know, Starfire's hitting that much more even for the longer cast and having the AoE, or Blizzard has an internal cooldown for being able to proc the same eclipse at this, you know, within the same battle, you know, encounter, I should say. So with that being said, guys, that's it for the kind of review of these changes. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is a move in the right direction, but I definitely do see some concerns that I'm a little worried about, kind of forcing a Boomkin to play like a robot. So with that being said, guys, let me know what else you want to see on the alpha. I'm just going to keep doing streams every day except for Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing that a lot. We're also going to be doing transmog competitions every month. We're going to be doing giveaways every month. So I hope to see you guys on the stream or in Discord. And with that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.